Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. So, here on Wisdom Wednesday, this is where I come live and I will pick a topic that's based on, what the energies are for this week. And what I want to do here, what this is designed for, is designed to give you practical tools and tips that you can use in order to really begin to move forward through all of these different energies that we're going through. And because for me, spirituality isn't just about, doing things on the full moon, doing things on the equinox, doing things for the solar eclipses or on certain days. Spirituality to me is a practical way in which we can really use the tools that we have to assist us in our lives. Because my friend Deborah Bowen, the Inner Queen coach, said before on a podcast that she used to be on that if spirituality, if it's not practical, then it's not spiritual, because spirituality is here to help us through life. It's here to assist us, not here to make life more complicated, not here to make life more insane. It's here to make life easier for us. And so that is why I do these Wisdom Wednesdays, to share practical tools and tips with all of you. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is embodying more of the truth of who you are and giving you practical tools and tips that you can use to better discern when it is your true self shining through or when you're coming more from your ego. And so the way I first want to come with this is I want to share a personal parable from my life. And so when it came to really discovering the truth of who I am, or really embodying that more, for those of you that have followed me for any amount of time, I started 5 years ago with my friend Deborah Bowen, the Inner Queen coach, and my friend Marianne Moore of Akashic Inspirations, or Marianne Soul Coaching. And we kind of did this reading train where we would, Debbie would start, and then she would throw, she'd kind of give it over to me, and then I would do readings, and then I would give it over to Marianne, but we always switched off. And it was always something that we did. And so in that time, I was trying to discover who I was as a reader, just really as a reader, and just trying to be like, okay, who am I? Who am I going to be? And so I tried to first be like my friend Debbie. And my friend Debbie really describes herself as, down to earth, tell it like it is, and, very New York. That's really like, she describes herself as like a New York girl, because that's where she grew up. And so I remember going live and trying to be like her, trying to emulate that personality and be like, oh, come on in and all this, and trying to really like copy that energy. But what I realized was, after doing the readings, I was exhausted. I was like, oh my God, it's been an hour and I feel like it's been, 4.5 and I've been reading all day. I'm exhausted. And so I was like, okay, so I tried that for a little bit, but it didn't really work for me. So then I was like, well, maybe I just need to go a little bit slower, and I need to be like my friend Marianne. And my friend Marianne, she was very good with her words. She was very wise. I always found that about her. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Marilyn. And so I decided, I said, okay, I'm going to try to be like her. But still, even trying to go a little bit slower and really trying to like watch my words, because I always found that Marianne had this beautiful way of like saying things. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. But still, at the end of it, I was exhausted. I was tired. And I was just, once again, doing an hour and just being like, oh my gosh. So then I tried to like lower it to 30 minutes and still exhausted. And it wasn't until one day I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go on there and I'm just going to be me. I'm going to allow the divine to flow through me in the way in which it wants to. I'm not going to try to force it. I'm not going to try to make it. I'm not going to try to put on a facade, a mask. I'm just going to show up. And what do you know? After that live, it was like I had lightning in a bottle. And I felt energized. I felt invigorated. And I was just I was excited. I was like, that was amazing. That was so great. That was so wonderful. And the reason that I was tired when it came to those other lives was because I was trying to, number one, be someone I wasn't. I was trying to, put on this mask and try to be someone else. And the beauty is the divine knows exactly how to flow through you. You don't have to say, oh, how does the divine want to flow through me? The divine already knows how it wants to flow through you. You have to allow that to happen. And that's where this is one of our big practical tools that we can use to better discern when it is our higher self and when it is our ego. When it is our higher self, it is easy, it is effortless, and it just feels like you're not doing anything because in truth, you're not. You are allowing the truth of who you are to shine forth, to shine through. And you don't really have to think about it. You don't have to be like, well, should I say this or should I say that? Should I put it this way? Should I put it that way? You just allow that to come through you. Now, when it comes to the ego, then yeah, you're going to feel really tired. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I've just been doing all this, and you're just going to feel this exhaustion because you're trying to do it. You're trying to make it happen instead of allowing it to happen. And that is what is so key. And that's our first practical tool. If you find yourself exhausted after doing something, really be willing to tune in and be like, okay, was I trying to make that happen? Or was I allowing that to really come through? Like, which one was it? And it's that discernment within yourself. But we can, like I said, we can start to tell if it's easy, effortless, and afterwards you just feel wonderful. You just feel like, wow, like I feel great. Trayvon, I have COVID and I'm trying to feel better and remain positive. The pop on, thank you for the high vibe words and healing voice. Of course, always my pleasure. And we will continue to keep you in our thoughts and prayers as you continue to go through this process of healing. And you're going to hear my dog because he wants to go outside, but my sister's taking him outside, but you might hear him barking here in just another minute or so. But anyway, continuing on. So that's one way. Then the next way that we can begin to discern whether it is our ego or our higher self is not only by the way that we feel, but also by the way that it flows. Like I said, when it comes to your higher self, it is a flow. You're not necessarily thinking about it. You're not trying to formulate the words beforehand. You are simply allowing the truth of who you are to shine through. It's that effortlessness. It's that flow. And, another personal parable about this is when I was at KinderCare and I was really practicing listening more to my intuition, I would just start saying things and I wasn't really sure necessarily where they were coming from, but it would always be the right thing for the right person. And I didn't know it. I had no conscious thought of, I need to go up to this person and I need to say this because they're having a really hard day. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with, okay, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but these words, these images are coming into my head. I'm going to ask this person if they're willing to hear it. If they are, great, wonderful. If they're not, that's okay too. But a good majority of the time, they'd be like, oh yeah, totally. Like, I want to hear it. And then I tell them, they're like, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I didn't formulate it. I didn't make it happen. I didn't force it to happen. I allowed it to happen. I allowed the divine, the divinity that is within me to simply flow through me instead of trying to contrive something, instead of trying to make something. And that's another really big tool that we can begin to use is and this is something I learned from watching a video of Ramana Maharshi. And you can begin to ask yourself this question. who is the I? Okay, so who is the I that's angry? Who is the I that's upset? Who is the I that is sad? Who is the I that is judging? Who is the I that is feeling wronged? Who is the I that's feeling attacked? And when you ask yourself that question, you're taking that step back, you're becoming more of the observer, and you're allowing yourself to say, whoa, 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 the ego is not the truth of who I am. Now, it is a clever mask and actually it's not even a clever mask, it's just a mask that we've kind of put over the truth of who we are, that we believe that we are. And it's like, what is it? I'm seeing the image in my head. You know those glasses? Yes. So those funny little glasses that, like have like the big nose and the mustache, and everyone knows it's still you, but yet you're trying to like pass off that you're a different person. That's literally what the ego is. It's those funny glasses that we put on that we try to trick ourselves into believing that's who we are. And it's just like when the kids at KinderCare, the toddlers and the twos, when, we'd play hide and seek outside, and they would go hide literally right in front of a tree, but put their eyes, close their eyes and be like, oh, you can't see me. You can't see me because, I'm covering my eyes, so I can't see you. That means you can't see me. And that's how they would do that. And so that's something else that we tend to do. We tend not to introduce ourselves. We tend to introduce our masks. We tend to say, hi, I'm Ron Schaefer. I'm a spiritual intuitive. Or, hi, I'm Ron and I'm this or that. We introduce our egos, our roles, instead of just really coming together and just being and having it be a celebration. Because that's something else that's really big that I have learned from A Course in Miracles, is that when you meet anyone, it should be a celebration. Okay? It should be a of. Sorry about that, everyone. Got a phone call there. So instead of, let's just make it a celebration. The ego will always try and introduce the role and say, oh, this is the role that I'm playing, instead of this is who I am. And I know for a long time that was something that I did. I introduced myself as my role that I was playing, instead of just introducing myself as, we still have names, we still need names, so we still use them. But instead of just being like, hi, I'm Ron, it's nice to meet you. Instead of like, hi, I'm Ron, I'm spiritual intuitive, I'm this, I'm that. No, we stop that. Hi, I'm Ron, it's nice to meet you. That's it. And you can really tell when you are embodying that truth of who you are, because it's this beautiful sense of ease, like I've been talking about. It's just that ease, that grace. But let's go back to that spiritual tool of asking, who is the I? So when we do that, we are becoming the observer. Okay, we're becoming the observer. We're looking at it and we're like, okay, who is the I that's really upset here? Because it's always going to be that ego I, because the truth of you knows that it is absolutely safe, absolutely perfectly fine, absolutely unafraid, and it knows no fear in and of itself, because it knows the truth of who it is. But the ego, on the other hand, is going to react to things. Now, I'm not saying that anger is a bad thing. I'm not saying that sadness is a bad thing. Not at all. We feel them. We acknowledge those emotions. But as we feel them and we acknowledge them, we need to be willing to ask ourselves, where is it coming from? Instead of just being like, oh, nope, that's it. I'm just angry, or I'm just feeling attacked, or I'm just feeling this. No, who is the I that's feeling attacked? Who are you identifying with? What aspect of yourself are you identifying yourself with? Now, I know for some people, there's the inner masculine, the inner feminine, the inner child. For me, I just like to make it very, very simple. Higher self, ego. Just very simple. If you try to give yourself more choices, then you're going to get more and more confused. I like to make it just simple and concise. Who is the I that's feeling attacked right now? Okay, it's my ego I. Why is my ego I feeling attacked? So now, okay, so we've identified who's the I. Now, why is this I feeling attacked? We're asking that question. Well, maybe because the concept of itself feels like it's being torn down, or feels like it's being attacked. Okay, great, wonderful. Now we've identified it, and now we can say, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that I had such a grip on this, idea of who I thought I was. And I will tell you, I remember a time when when I was first studying A Course in Miracles, I made everything about the Course in Miracles. Every conversation I had, I made about the Course. And it wasn't until someone really questioned it and really like brought it up to me and was basically saying that the Course was false, was bad. And I remember getting so angry, so frustrated, because as I asked that question, who is the I that's feeling attacked here? Who's the I that's upset? It was my ego, because I had made my identity this book or this set of principles, this set of teachings. The Course in Miracles is not who I am. The Course in Miracles is something that I can teach. It is something that I enjoy reading, but it is not who I am. It is something that I do, but not who I am. And there was a really big key. And I was like, wow, like that was really eye-opening for me. And so I was able to respond to that person instead of react. And I think we've all had those times where we have reacted to someone because of that identification with a certain role, a certain idea, a certain spiritual principle, a certain spiritual lesson. And we have just identified ourselves so strongly with it that when someone comes at us in a way that maybe is rebuking it, saying it's bad, saying it's false, we feel then like we're bad and we're false because we have identified ourselves with it, instead of simply seeing it as something that we do or something that we enjoy. So once again, that questioning of who is the I is such a pivotal question for us to ask ourselves and really be mindful of and discerning. Okay, it's my ego. Okay, great. Am I my ego? No, I'm not. Am I this thing? Am I this idea or this thing? No. Okay. So why do I need to be upset? Oh, wait, I don't. I don't really need to be upset, because I know that that's just a role that I play. It's not who I am. And you notice the word I'm using there, the role that I play, not the person not the truth that I am. It's a role. It's a mask that I'm wearing in that moment. So just something that you guys can consider. So when you get upset, maybe tomorrow, maybe even after this live, someone, you feel attacked, ask yourself that question, who is the I? And just be willing to ask it. Because we never really acknowledge that. We don't acknowledge that we ascribe ourselves roles that we're playing as the truth of who we are, when in fact, it's just a teeny tiny little mask that we're wearing, that false little pretend mask, or just like wearing sunglasses and being like, oh, I don't know who that person is because they're wearing sunglasses. You still know who they are. So our first tool, our first practical tool in really discerning, and you're noticing the word I'm using there, discerning, not judging. Judgment to me is good or bad. Discerning is, this is for me, this is not. And you see the difference. One is a definition of saying, this is good, then this is bad. Where discernment is, that energy is for me, this energy is not. It's not. If this energy is not for me, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just not for me at this moment. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that energy can't come back around and reinsert itself in a time that I am ready for it, in whatever way, shape, or form. So just some simple and easy ways to begin that. So we're discerning. So one way that we discern is by how we feel when we are in that process of allowing ourselves, whatever that may be, and however that may be. Why do we get so offended when challenging our beliefs? Karen, I love that question. And the answer to that question is really simple, because we identify ourselves with our beliefs. We say, because I believe that is who I am. It's that identification again with the belief. It's that identification with the role, with the idea, whatever it is, because we are identifying ourselves with it. We are saying that belief or that idea is a part of me or is me. And we don't realize that it's not us. That belief, that whatever it is, it's not us. It's not the truth of us, because then that's a limit. We don't want to limit ourselves because we, in truth, are limitless. So, number one, we discern by the way that we feel when we allow ourselves to express. So, if it's easy, effortless, and it just feels good and re-energizes you, then we know that's coming from your higher self. But if you're tired, if you feel just like all bent out of shape, if you're feeling like this is just so hard, then we can be sure that we're coming from our ego. Another great way we can discern between our higher self and our ego. The higher self is always going to want to bring together. The ego is always going to want to separate. The ego is always going to say, this is good, this is bad. Where the higher self is always going to come forward and it's going to see everyone as equal. It's not going to say you're higher, you're better. It sees everyone on the same playing field. So if you start to notice yourself, and I noticed this in different spiritual communities that I was a part of, where people would start talking about people who were quote unquote unawakened, and they'd be like, oh, the muggles, or they would say like the unawakened, or the, just not so nice things. And I was like, whoa, 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 okay, they may not be, at whatever level, but that doesn't mean that they're any less. And that doesn't mean that we need to call them names. And so when I started to see that, I stepped away from those groups. So how do I heal with people and cut you off with no reason in the spiritual community? Okay, wait a minute. Let's read that again. So how do I heal with people that cut you off with no reason in a spiritual community? Jules, the best way that I would say to really start to come and start that healing process is through forgiveness. Now, you don't need the other person for this. Not at all. You don't need to be in contact with them. You don't need anything with them. All you need to do is, first and foremost, be willing to forgive yourself. Be willing to forgive them. Forgiveness to me, now once again, it doesn't mean that has to be for you. It's just the way that I have come to see forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about saying that what the other person did is okay. Forgiveness is about allowing yourself to let it go, to let go of the value that you have placed on what has happened. It doesn't mean that what happened wasn't, mean or bad or whatever the case is. It just simply means I don't want to hold on to it anymore. I don't want this to continue to be the spiritual baggage that I'm carrying around, the story that I'm carrying around, because there may actually be a story in that you're not even aware of. So maybe you could be willing, in whatever way that feels good to you, and this is just something that I do, doesn't mean you have to, it's just something that I'm sharing because you asked the question. And so I'd be like, okay, I forgive myself for believing that I could ever be alone, that I could ever be ghosted, that there could be people out there who don't allow me to speak my mind, or who don't want to, or I forgive myself for believing that there are some people who are a curse to my life. I forgive myself. I mean, there's so many different layers to that you could, really do. So whatever works for you, thank you. That's exactly what I'm working on, is forgiveness for me and them. That's beautiful. Free yourself first and they will be freed already. The moment you free yourself, they're automatically free. Maybe their belief just didn't align with yours. I wouldn't take it personally. Yeah, that's something else that we can do. There are going to be some times that we don't necessarily, believe what other people believe. Now, there's going to be times when, like I said, that energy just isn't for you, or that energy is not for them, and that's okay. And once again, it does come back to, am I going to wear the world as, a loose garment? Or am I going to wear it as a straitjacket? Like, which one am I going to do? Am I going to wear it as a straitjacket, or am I going to wear it as a garment? So, or as there you go. That's what I said. I meant. So that is that. And I thank you so much for asking those questions. Another way that we can begin to discern more of, what is the truth of me and what is that ego, is, once again, asking ourselves the question. And Julie, this may be something that you want to do as well, is who is the I that feels hurt by this? Why does that I feel hurt? And getting to, the story that's there, getting to the real hurt. And like I said, for me, I'm not about the inner masculine, inner feminine, inner this, inner that. For me, it's spirit or ego. Those are going to be my two choices. Because if I try to give myself more choices, then I feel like I'm separating more. Because now I'm saying, well, now there's an inner masculine, and now there's an inner feminine. Now there's an inner child. Now from the inner child, there's an inner this. That's just not something that I necessarily want to ascribe to. I like to give myself very few choices. Here's this and this. These are the choices. Because really, that's all we have. It's either love or fear. So, yes, I agree that the journey is going in a different direction. Beautiful. If I unfriend everyone who talks about those who are awakened and those who are not, I would be unfriending a lot of people. I don't resonate with that type of thinking and never did. That's beautiful. Yes, I'm hurt because there was never harsh words between us. It was one day they blocked me. All right. Well, once again, just going back to that. Okay. Who is the I that's hurt? Who is that I? And just asking yourself that question, being discerning. And that's, another big part. Remember, discernment, this energy is for me. This energy is not. Judgment, this is good. This is bad. We want to stick with discernment, step away from judgment to the best of our ability in whatever way. And so another way that we can begin to discern more of the truth of who we are is in our capacity to, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Is spirit non-gender? If so, why do we refer to it as he? Well, spirit in and of itself, yes, is non-gender. Spirit doesn't have a gender because spirit is everything. We say he just to make it easier. You could say she just as easily. Like the spirit doesn't care what you refer to it as. It only cares that you refer to it at all. It only wants you to communicate with it as consistently as it communicates with you. So you could say he, you could say she, you could say it. Spirit does not matter. To spirit, it doesn't matter. You could say it has no gender, and if you do assign it a gender, it's not like spirit's going to care. It just says, okay, this is the way you want to communicate with me for right now. Wonderful. And it will be happy with that. So, yeah, all right. So we have those. We have our tool of ease and grace and flow. We have our tool of who is the I. And we have our tool, and I think this goes great. And Julie, I'm so glad you came on and asked that question about that forgiveness, because I think that's our third tool, is forgiving. Not only forgiving others, but being willing to forgive ourselves as well. Because guess what? We all get angry, we all get upset, and we all react to things in different ways. And that's okay. It's okay that you get angry. It's okay that you get upset. It's okay that you get sad. The key is to not speak from that place to the best of your ability, and to not only not to speak from that place, but not to act from that place. To be willing to take that step back and become more responsive instead of reactive. And a way that we can do that is another great tool, which is not only with that forgiveness, but spirit. Judge this for me. Spirit, what would you have me say here? Instead of, okay, what should I say? How should I say this? From the point of view of the ego, because the ego is going to try to get its point across. Spirit doesn't necessarily have a point to get across. It simply wants peace for everyone involved. And I know for me, there was one time where I was having a discussion with someone and it was going very poorly. There was like a breakdown in communication, and this other person was like getting very agitated, and I felt myself getting agitated, and I was like, OMG. I was like, okay. I was like, Spirit, I'm going to need you to speak for me and speak through me, because right now I feel myself getting so agitated. And I was able to ask myself the questions. I was willing to forgive myself because it was just over, that mess. It was just over Messenger. And then this beautiful thing came out of my mouth, and I just sent it right over. And literally, that one thing knocked out every miscommunication that there was. And I was just like, personally, Ron Schaefer would have never thought of that. That happened to me too, Jules. It hurt a bit, but I realized that this person who had been a friend strongly believed I was an enemy because I chose not to take a jab, a different way of thinking. It really wasn't about me at all. It was her beliefs that led her to thinking that I was an enemy. Yeah, that's sometimes what can happen. And we forgive. And just like Karen did, we forgive and we move on. We don't stay stuck on it because that's not what we want to do. That's not going to bring a resolution. If we're trying to make something happen, once again, now we're coming from that ego side because we're trying to make something happen instead of saying, okay, Spirit, what would you have me do in this situation? How would love respond to this? How would love see this? In whatever way, shape, or form. It's not always going to come to you immediately because there are times when I'm like, okay, love, what should I say here? And there's no answer. So to me, love's just saying, be silent, be quiet. There's nothing that you can say, nothing that needs to be said. And then other times, something will come to me and I don't necessarily know what it is or how it's going to happen because I want peace. And so in wanting that peace and setting that goal as peace, and setting that goal as having the truth of me respond to them, and the truth of me, just like is the truth of all of you, is love, then a peaceful outcome is going to happen for everyone. Now, when I say that, that does not mean that the other person is just going to suddenly turn around and it's going to be sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. Love is going to speak for you and through you. And if they want to receive that, great, wonderful. If they don't, that's okay because you know where you were responding from. Okay, keyword, responding. We know what it feels like when we react. It's just like that knee-jerk reaction. We know what that feels like. We also know what responding feels like. That's where we want to be. And so that's actually going to end my live for today. And so I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. If you're interested in learning more about me or my services, you can go to my website, awakeningmiracles.org. And if you are interested in learning how to respond, I actually do have an online course. It's 4 modules, pre-recorded. And so if you're interested in that, you can go check that out on my website, awakeningmiracles.org. I thank you all for joining me. I thank you all for being here. And I will see you all tomorrow with my daily posts at 10 a.m. and at 1 p.m.